Yeah, I think we're good. So let me see. Avery and Lydia, you guys are here. Can we make ourselves like there? Maybe we can, everyone can see everyone now. How did your breakout conversations go?
Mine was great. We were talking about like food sustainability and wrapping that up into the activity. And I'd love maybe for my group to chime in the chat if you want to add anything specific. We were talking about tailoring this for different age groups. Those were some big thoughts on our end. We were also talking about how this could be a good activity when libraries reopen with limited programming. That being able to do this outside could be like a good option.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I've thought about that yet, but that's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Hey Avery, what about how was your group?
Yeah, so we had a really great discussion. We talked a lot about like bringing the outdoors in almost, and different ways to do this. So Kira had mentioned that at her library they have a compost bin, which is actively always growing things. You can always contribute to it, and that's just like a great way to engage with, the living materials that you're adding to the compost bin. So that was super cool. We also discussed a little bit about kits. So how can we make field journals with prompts that can be just easily delivered or picked up through a drive-through window type style thing. And an idea that Sharon had actually was, as we sort of resume programming, is this activity, because it's already done outside, we could like have it such that participants are still 6 feet away by setting up like carpet squares or something, and doing like a guided sensory nature walk together, or just like a stationary sort of sensory analysis of the environment around them.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Which seems really fun. I'd love to do that myself.
Cool. So I'll remind everyone that if you have any questions for us or even just for the group and you want to post them in the chat, we're happy to answer them. I see there's a few things in there now that we can address. Sharon asked if we're going to be able to get links to access the group chats. I imagine that that's about the Etherpad shared notes in the breakout rooms. And if so, the answer is yes. We will email those to you after the event is over. So you'll get a copy of, if anyone shared links or ideas and you want to make sure you keep track of those, you'll get a copy emailed to you after this event. Let's see, what else? I guess people don't have too many questions, but it looks like Amber shared a little bit about what breakout from room 4 was talking about. And I think there's some interesting stuff here about how to translate this program for either small groups or large groups. I don't know, Avery, if you have any thoughts about like group size when running this activity. I think you've run it with a variety of different sizes of groups.
Yeah, so my group actually had a similar question, which was related to group size and the amount of like supervision that is necessary. And I would say that like, just given the nature of it, like it can be dangerous to go out into the street, into the urban environment. So like one facilitator per like 5 or 6 participants, I think is a good amount. And, this is something that works really well with both a very small tight knit group. And I've run it with even larger groups of like upwards of 18 kids running all around. That was a little bit more enclosed space. But yeah, I think in terms of translating it for larger groups, things to think about are just like maintenance of that group size. As long as they're working together in smaller groups within a larger group to discuss or explore the environment together, I think that's the most critical component.
Yeah, and another idea that I like is maybe thinking about, excuse me, bringing on some, like, if you're running this with, for say middle schoolers or younger children, you could try and recruit some teens maybe who hang out at your library to serve as those extra facilitators. And that could also be like an interesting development program for them. It might be an easy way to get like a few extra sets of hands to sort of do some wrangling when you've got a bunch of people running around a park and things like that. So I also like, it seems Athy said that she's going to try and run this activity as a staff training in partnership with a community organization in Miami.
Oh, cool.
I love that idea. That sounds amazing. Please let us know how it goes, which is something I'll note for everyone. We love to hear how your programs went. If it was great, that's great. And if it wasn't, that's even better, because we love to hear feedback about how we can help make these things better, what things you learned from facilitating this, how we can help pass that knowledge on to other folks who might be running this library, like running this at their library. So please do not hesitate to send us photos or reflections or just things that went wrong or horror stories or anything. Like, we want to hear it all. And we'd love to work with you to help improve this content, because we really think about all of our work as like very collaborative.
One other thing I was thinking about based on what Avery and your group was talking about was, it can be dangerous, even when we're not in this situation right now, to go outside with a bunch of folks in your library. And I think something that we touched on a little bit in my group was like how to do this, obviously, how to do this virtually, and thinking about like, what can you see, from your window? Like, what can you and your patrons see outside when you're sitting inside? So maybe it's sharing on Twitter, like pictures from your outside, or sharing like in a private Zoom call. But I think like having options ready for people who aren't able to get outside is super important. Like Adam had this great example of using the picture from Google Street View. I think that's a great way to do it too. But definitely want to emphasize and like acknowledge that a lot of folks like maybe don't have a backyard, or for other reasons aren't going outside.
Yeah, and I think that sort of related to thinking about maybe running this activity virtually right now, Meg actually just made a little comment in the chat that she's thinking of doing it as an intergenerational activity, like maybe a family activity for parents and children, or caregivers and children. And I think that is a great idea for sort of running it virtually now, to like encourage, older family members, maybe even an older sibling, to take their younger siblings on a sensory nature walk. I think that could work really well. I think it could also work really well maybe when we're able to run programs again in person, to think of it more as like a family activity. We actually haven't tried running it that way, but I really want to now. That sounds awesome. So please, Meg, let us know how that goes. Sounds really, really fun. Awesome. Well, I think it doesn't seem like anyone has any more questions. So maybe this is a great moment to wrap up. Avery and Lydia, do you have any last thoughts or comments or anything like that before we wrap up for this week?
I think we're good. We touched on everything we wanted to talk about. I don't know if you, Avery, had anything.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Catherine had said before, which is that we'd love to see like the ways or the directions that you take this project. I think it can be remixed, in every different way depending on your community context, and I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. I also want to thank everyone who contributed slides. It was so helpful to have them and actually craft the presentation around those examples. And again, we're going to have those small activity prompts every week, so I'd encourage you to keep on doing them and keep giving us data to work from as we do these training sessions.
Great. And as always, if you have any questions or comments in the meantime, just please send us an email. We really love to hear from you. If not, we will see you next week, Thursday, same time, same place. And you can look out for an email that's coming your way on Monday for next week's content and prompt. So thanks. It was so great to see you all, and looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you next week.